Okay guys, welcome back to another body language video, and this is going to be James Bond again. It's going to be part 4. Excited to bring this back because you guys love them. Was expecting to be doing the new movie. Sorry, I can't actually hear myself. Was expecting to do the new movie, but with lockdown, coronavirus, it's ruined all of that, which is a massive shame because that would have been around about now, I believe, or maybe even a month ago. I think it was April. That will be coming when they release that film. I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year's time. I don't know when they've pushed it back to. But this is going to be part 4 of the James Bond body language analysis. It's the scene with Miss Moneypenny in Macau, just before they go down to the casino. It's a good scene, quite short, but a lot to be seen. I believe these videos, they kind of kicked off the First Man YouTube channel. It's what got me a lot of the subscribers in the early days, and before these videos were deleted and I re-uploaded them, a lot of them had like 600,000-700,000 views, which is just insane. It just shows the demand. And I've seen that the Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I've seen that his video that I released is doing really well. I think it's my best performing one at the moment, day by day. So I decided to make another one, and it's James Bond. So let's roll this forward. There's just a quick intro, and then we'll whack the sound up. I've got my pen tool on the right hand side. I feel like I've forgotten how to use it, but it's not exactly rocket science. Okay.
For the service.
I didn't order anything. Not even you.
Okay, first and foremost, I think we have to comment on the fact that he wasn't phased at all. I've seen so many channels. I was watching a video earlier by Charisma on Command, I think that's what they're called. Massive channel. And they were saying about Don Draper and how he's unreactive to everything that happens. James Bond is exactly the same. Whenever, you know, he was expecting maybe a shootout at the door. He didn't know what to expect. She says room service, he opens it up. You know, it's not exactly like he's over ecstatic about her being there. He's not shocked. And he's been caught, which we'll get to in a minute, in an uncompromising position. So he's there with, quite frankly, a bullet wound in his chest, which is so manly. But I think she actually shot him. I think, if I remember the film correctly. But he's got his top off and he's just wearing a towel. You know, he hasn't got ready yet. He should be a little bit uncomfortable. The average man should be, because she's ready. I think she's already got dressed, you know, but he's so relaxed. Watch this when he opens the door. Barely any movement in his face. It's fantastic.
I didn't order anything.
With a calm, just, I didn't order anything. You know, a quick, witty line, 3 or 4 words long. He doesn't have to over-explain, because we all know most guys in that situation would say, you know, oh, okay, you caught me at a bad time. Hang on, let me just put some clothes on. Bear with me, just, you know, but he's so at ease in every scenario. Let's move this on.
Not even you.
I've got some new.
Actually, I just spotted someone else there as well. If we roll back, look at this level of eye contact.
I didn't order anything.
So watch it from this point onwards. So he's just spoken. He would be, you know, he'd be allowed in social kind of terms to look away, but he doesn't. Watch this. He keeps holding, then he speaks again, then he keeps holding.
Not even you.
There. It was maybe over only a second, but this was intense. Ready? This is a difference maker.
Not even you.
From this point onwards, watch his eyes. Mainly, I know you know what eyes are, guys, but let me use blue. But it's mainly this area. And I'm going to highlight it for a reason. And I know, like I said, you know what eyes are. But the focus here, you know, there's no movement here. There's no movement in the brows. There's no twitch of an ear or twitch of a nose. It's just this intense. If we block everything else out and we just look at this area here, look how intense that stare is. That's what makes this incredible. Now, if we just get rid of this, which I believe, I don't believe that I have to do this, but I think there's a back tool. Yeah, there is. But if we just roll this on, sorry. If we just roll this on, watch this. It's just about 1 second, but this is so intense.
I've got some new
There. That's some of the best eye contact I think I've ever seen James Bond do. That's unbelievable.
information.
Aren't you a little overqualified to be delivering messages?
Okay, that seems very important. The fact that he kind of signifies, and there's about 10 to 20 seconds here where he does it, he kind of signifies, okay, you know, without saying you're allowed to come in, he just walks off, which is her cue to come in. You know, sometimes less is more. Very cool move. Secondly, the fact that he's like, okay, I've got things to do, you're kind of wasting my time now, let me move on with what I'm doing. If you want to come in and kind of watch me, then you can do so. That's a very, very alpha male move. And a lot of guys may stop what they're doing, ask her if she wanted a drink, maybe sit down, take care of her, make her the center of attention here. But the fact that he's going off and doing what he was doing anyway and saying that, like, my time's valuable, you kind of disrupted me, is huge. And I think secondly to this, if we just keep this rolling a little bit more.
It's all part of the learning curve. And Q's afraid of flying.
Of course he is.
So like we said, he's gone straight back to what he was doing. But the fact that he's still topless, you know, he's quite exposed here. Towel could fall down, who knows, right? But he's still got the towel on, he's still topless, she's right behind him, doesn't really care. Just like I said, getting on with what he's doing. It's a very alpha move.
So, whoever stole the list has already decrypted it. They posted the first 5 names on the web.
Well, it was only...
I think this is quite key as well. The fact that instead of perhaps turning his head this way and keep looking back at her, he's kind of saying, look, you're not really worth my full attention. There's a mirror here. I'm going to use that. I know it's used for, you know, for a director in terms of quite a cool dramatic shot. Mirror shots are always cool. But the fact that he's looking at her or taking glances at her in the mirror while he's still getting on, I should circle it here really, it's probably easier, while he's still getting on with, you know, his shaving, which I think's a very alpha male move, very cool. You know, it's that even though she disrupted him and kind of put him out of his rhythm by knocking on the door when he didn't expect it, he's regained control very quickly. He's reasserted himself as the dominant one of the two, the alpha male here, and she's definitely an alpha female. So that's a great way to handle this. And like I said, he's gone back to doing what he was normally doing. He didn't say, okay, I'll put a shirt on. He didn't say something like, do you want a drink? Do you want me to sit down with you? Hang on, I'll do this later. He's saying my time is valuable. I'm going to continue doing what I was doing. You know, if you want to stay in the room, then by all means stay in the room. And, you know, but I'm going to continue with what I was doing. Time is precious. He's showing that here.
Only a matter of time.
Well, that's just the start. They're posting 5 more next week and the week after. It's some kind of sadistic game. Cutthroat razor.
I think this is also important. Think about how long he's silent for here. So she's just asked him a question, well, somewhat. She's just said it's some sort of sadistic game. Some other people might have said, yeah, or responded with something else. You know, you know that kind of space filling where people and are, you know, that sort of shit. James Bond isn't doing that here. He didn't fill the space with something that didn't need to be filled. He didn't have anything to say, so we didn't say it. He just embraced the silence and just moved forward. That's very alpha in terms of, that's not so much body language, that's tonality without actually saying anything. It's a very strange one. Again, like we said, less is more.
Cutthroat razor. How very traditional.
Well, I like to do some things the old-fashioned way.
I think that's important too, because he's not justifying why he's doing what he's doing. You know, she's questioning him. She's saying that's different, and he's just saying, I like things the old-fashioned way, or sometimes I like to do things the old-fashioned way, or whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing. You know, so many guys will talk about, you know, at length why they do certain things. They'll justify, they'll explain. He sees no reason to explain, and that's very alpha. It's kind of signifying that he does things his own way. This is his life. He's not afraid to be who he is, which is fantastic.
Sometimes the old ways are the best.
So she moved very close there. She moves into his area. She gets a lot closer. Instead of being under pressure or compromised or afraid, he actually then, what she's doing here is she's putting the challenge to him by moving in closer. He then puts the challenge to her, so he one-ups her by giving her the razor. It's kind of saying, okay, you think you're brave? How brave are you? It's those shit tests that guys always talk about, or the pickup artists always talk about. That's kind of one of them. If we talk about it in a sense of spatial awareness, let's say Bond's kind of trapped. He's in the bathroom. There's no way out. In order to get out of that room, he'd have to pass her. She's standing in the doorway. That's the only exit. So that is kind of like it's a very alpha woman move. She's moved into his zone, into his space, like we said. And then in order to challenge that, he said, okay, look, if you want to be here, you do it. It's combating that shit test.
Are you putting your life?
I also think what's important here is the height of which he's handing this to her. So he's not handing it to her hand or anything like that. He's put this right close to her face, where he's saying, okay, you tried to get into my area, I'm going to get into your area. In terms of spatial awareness, comfort zones, etc. It's a brave move from Bond.
My hands again.
I think this is important too. As you can see, his feet are positioned wide. His knees are positioned out wide. You can just see that back leg there. Enough space to let her come into this zone and sit in between his legs. That's again a very confident alpha male move. Maybe a lot of guys would sit to the side. Maybe they think that was inappropriate with a woman that they're not with. Bond has no problem. Like he could quite comfortably sit back on this chair here. He could sit back a little bit further. I'm sure there's space where he could sit to the side and she could do one cheek and then the other. But the fact that he's let her into this zone and comfortable enough to have his hands so close to her body, penis is obviously there, vagina's obviously there, it's a short gap between them. Like I said, it's a very, very alpha male move. And it kind of shows, I know I was talking recently about #MeToo. This kind of shows how I don't think it's such a problem. If you're not with a woman, if you're not dating a woman, I don't think it's a problem to, as long as it's not creepy and she kind of shows signs that she's confident or happy or willing with you touching her, then touch more often, get in closer, get in compromised positions like this. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's sexy.
Holmes already briefed me on the list.
The fact he's not flinching too, I think that's fantastic. The fact that she's got a cutthroat razor really close to his face, to his throat, he's not worried one bit. I think that's that non-reactive behavior that is so attractive, and I think it's being aloof, isn't it?
Raising the tantalizing question of what you're really doing here.
I think this is one of Daniel Craig's best traits as Bond. The kind of whisper, you can see how close they are together. And I learned this when I used to do sales, is that even if you've got somebody on the phone, in terms of tonality, if you whisper, people always whisper back or move in closer, or you can just tell that they're listening that little bit more attentively because it feels like it's personal to them, like a secret or something. And that's what James Bond does so very well, or at least the Daniel Craig Bond does so well, is that when he's up close and personal with women and men, as in maybe the villains, or he's got something cool to say or a one-liner, he'll whisper it in a deep, like kind of gravelly tonality. And number one, it's sexy. Number two, is very personal to the woman. Number three, he's going to get her attention by doing that, because you try it. I guarantee if you could get a video on somebody in the street, and you could call a phone booth and you started talking to them, the second you start whispering, I guarantee they move that phone a little bit closer or they lean in. It's just a natural human reaction. And I definitely think when you're with women or men, whatever you're into, when you get close in those situations, I definitely think you should give that kind of deep voice, masculine whisper. and definitely use it when you're talking to women in crowded environments. I feel like that kind of holding the eye contact, the intense eye contact with a whisper just shows that all of your focus is on them for that singular moment. They love it. They lap it up.
The official directive was to help in any way I can.
Like spying for Mallory.
You know, Mallory's not as bad as you think.
He's a bureaucrat.
You should do your homework. Gareth Mallory was a lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel in Northern Ireland.
I think that's also important. I don't believe that you should do this all the time or every time, which is interrupting women. But it kind of inserts a little bit of dominance. You know, it's kind of like a mental challenge. It's kind of an intellectual challenge that you knew what they were going to say before they said it. You know, you weren't waiting around for their answer. You had a better one. I think just now and again you drop that in. I think it's a very masculine trait.
Hereford Regiment spent 3 months at the hands of the IRA.
So there's more to him than meets the eye.
I think this is important too. I always say never look down, but he's actually checking her out. The way that he's looking straight at her cleavage here, which, you know, you shouldn't just do randomly to women if you don't know them, but when you're up close and personal, the whole hashtag Me Too thing, I think is garbage, right? So I think if you're with a woman in an intimate situation or you're talking to her, I think you should have no shame in checking her out, looking at her curves, looking at her body, cleavage, whatever it might be. Showing that you're attracted to her, showing that that's something that you like, I think is very masculine. I think is confident. And I think that openness is something that women relate very positive to, or very positively to. You know, so many guys are scared to kind of check out a woman, look her up and down, maybe look at her curves, etc. I think when you do that, you kind of signify your intentions. And like I said, women love it when a man is open.
We'll see.
Also on that as well, so many women are scared to make the first move. So when you do something like that, you do open up that possibility, and you kind of say to her, "This is where my intentions are. This is something I'm interested in. It's okay for us to do this."
Keep still. This is the tricky part.
Just think about that for a second, guys. So he's actually reaching down, opening up her blouse, you know, trying to insinuate sex or something else. And women will watch this film and say, Daniel Craig's so sexy, Bond is so sexy, that scene was so sexy. You know, but then in real life, it's hashtag Me Too, don't touch me without my permission. But, look, I believe that in most scenarios, you can't just walk in the office, start slapping women on the ass, right? But in scenarios like this, you should never be afraid to do that kind of actions. Never be afraid to do these kinds of actions. You know, you see all these films like 50 Shades of Grey. You know, I was having a chat with somebody earlier who's coming on the podcast soon, and we were talking about how we don't think women actually know what they want. They say one thing, then they say another thing. You know, they say one thing, they want another. I think in these kind of scenarios, I think the man should always take the lead. Now, we live in a society now where a lot of women, a lot of feminist groups are saying that women should take the lead. If a woman says no, it's a definite no. You know, that's just standard, right? We know that. But in terms of women taking the lead or women making the first move, women aren't going to do it. There's very few women or very few cultures of women that actually want to make the first move. Caribbean women, Cuban women, that's about it. Everyone else is petrified. So I definitely think as men, we still hold that key positioning where if we like a woman, they want us to come over. They want us to show that through our body language, through our behavior, through our actions, through our words. There's still a massive place for that in society. And I feel like if you follow what's being said in terms of the modern movement for how a man should be, you're going to quickly realize that shit doesn't work and the old ways are the best. So watch out with that, guys, and pay attention to that moment there from Bond. I think that's hugely important. And again, unreactive, he didn't flinch.
Now that's better. You look the part now.
And what part's that?
Old dog. New tricks.
And that's the end of that one, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'll try and bring some more to you guys over the next couple of months. Got a lot of podcasts coming out at the moment. Got another one booked in, or another 2 booked in. I hope you're enjoying them. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you as always, and I'll speak to you soon.